Here we go. Cover one crew. What is going on? Your boy Chris Chow is back again. Hope everybody's doing great. I'm awesome as per usual. It is week number 9. Waiver wire players, must add players. And you know what? It's getting a little thin, so I thought I'd give you guys a little bit of flip. I'd give you some players also to trade for, because now's an opportunity for the teams that are struggling, may want to ditch out on their top-end pieces to round out the roster. So I got some players that we should be looking at to trade today to stack your team if you're in a very good position for the fantasy playoffs. So what do you say we get to it, and let's get to these players we got to discuss today. Let's go. So like I'm saying, that waiver wire is just a little bit thin this week, but there still are players that we could covet off the wire. But let's talk about these players we should be going after via trade as we get closer to the fantasy playoffs. Jonathan Taylor is number 1. You got to be at least sending some flyers out. You could get him cheap on the dollar. The teams that have his services are likely struggling and would like to round out their team. You could get him a lot cheaper than a lot of people truly believe. I think that JT, a couple players, you could definitely do it. Let's talk redraft. Dynasty is not in the question here, but for redraft purposes, you could definitely snake yourself a JT for the long haul as the Indianapolis Colts get to figure out their quarterback position with Sam Ehlinger and see if they're going to, utilize JT that much more as they should moving forward. Jamar Chase is another one you got to think about getting on your roster at this point, because the 3 to 4 week injury due to that hip, he's going to come back. Apparently what all medical reps are saying is he's going to come back fully healthy in about 3 to 4 weeks. If you can stash him on your bench, this is a massive get, especially if the owner of Jamar Chase at this point is struggling and this hurts him and cripples them extremely poorly, then, go after Jamar Chase. I would definitely. And again, pennies on the dollar. You could do it. I'm telling you. Khalil Herbert is another one that we could get on the cheap at this point, unless the caveat is that David Montgomery is going to be traded to another club on Tuesday, the trade deadline day. So we'll see. But if he isn't and Monty remains on the Chicago Bears, Khalil Herbert is currently auditioning for the number 1 job in Chicago for the following season. So they will give him touches, and there will be no shortage of touches, I should say. Khalil Herbert definitely is a trade target that I would be coveting 110%. Miles Sanders kind of in that mid-range right now. He had not the best game this past week, so maybe you can go and get his services on the low right now, but he has been performing very well for the entire season, so I doubt the respective owner of Miles Sanders is going to want to ship his services away, but there's no harm in trying, and if you can get a Miles Sanders at a decent price, I would definitely be, contacting the services of those managers who have them. Brandon Ayuk is one I've been always in on this entire season, was preaching him up in your redraft drafts. You had to get Brandon Ayuk on your team, and now with Deebo Samuel out with the hamstring, this is interesting. They haven't said if he's going to play this week, but they're signing other wide receivers, to hedge their bets for more bodies. So that tells me this could be a multi-week injury for a Deebo Samuel. So Brandon Ayuk is one that you got to get on your roster, man. You saw what he did last week. Ayuk is a good wide receiver, and I think that, if you get him on your bench, even as your wide receiver 3, unbelievable stuff you're going to have moving forward into the fantasy football playoffs. Devontae Adams, they had a horrific day this past Sunday, and you guys can get him on the cheap. I would want to think that you could just sell it to the other manager and be like, he's not doing great. I know it's hard, but I would still offer something up for Devontae Adams. I think Vegas is going to definitely turn things around. They're going to be much better than what they were on Sunday. Yes, you're still going to have to pay likely a decent premium, but if you give 2 players for 1, there is definite potential that could be had for a Devontae Adams. But what do you say we talk wide receivers for Week 9 waiver wire picks if trading is not your game? And we got Joshua Palmer. He is my number 1 waiver wide receiver target this week because Mike Williams is gone. We know this. Palmer had the week off on the bye. He is rested up from the concussion. Should likely be good to go this week. He's going to get peppered with targets, especially with Keenan Allen likely back and healthy with the hammy as well. If Keenan goes down again as well with the hamstring injury, no Mike Williams, you got yourself a wide receiver 1 off the waiver wire with Joshua Palmer. Definitely put your fab dollars on this man. Rondale Moore, I told y'all I wanted to see it to believe it in this Cliff Kingsbury offense, and the resurrection of Rondale Moore is happening in front of our eyes. Still 40% ownership, 40.9% ownership rate. He still is existing on waiver wire. So if he is still in your league, you likely will have to give up about 10 to 15% of your fab dollars to get the man. Same goes for Palmer. I'd like to say, 20% of your fab dollars because of the injury. But those are my top two guys right now. DeAndre Hopkins is opening up lanes for a Rondale Moore. And finally, Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury are finally utilizing this man's services as it should have been this entire time. Rondale Moore definitely an ad. Mecole Hardman, like I said last week, you should add him on your roster. He's still 31% owned right now. The caveat was what I said last week when he was going into the bye, saying now's an opportunity where you won't have to spend fab dollars. You likely won't have to spend a lot on him this week as well. Keep him on the bench because it appears Kansas City's starting to utilize Mecole as the Tyreek Hill role. And this is good news, good positives, man. He's coming off 3 touchdowns before they went in the bye, so I fully expect the usage to continue at least to some degree in that Tyreek Hill mold. You got to love it. Devin Duvernay still on the wire, still very serviceable, almost got you 80 points on the wire, man. Why is this guy not on more rosters? 41%, y'all be crazy, man. At least get Devin Duvernay on your bench because this will not hurt you. I don't know what you're doing, but listen to me, Kadarius Toney, he's the guy. Okay, he goes now to Kansas City as well, so everyone's going to say Mecole Hardman's done. We haven't seen anything from a Kadarius Toney yet, and how he's going to plan to be utilized with an Andy Reid, we will see, but it's a good bench stash just in case it does pop. If he is healthy in this Andy Reid offense, I mean, it just blows your mind the possibilities and the potential Kadarius Toney could have in this offense playing with Patrick Mahomes. No kidding about that. Michael Gallup, he's over 50% as well. If he is on your roster, I don't hate the pickup, but it looks like the Cowboys are shopping for other wide receivers. Brandon Cook's name has been in the news, so definitely watch out for that one. I'm kind of lukewarm on a Michael Gallup at this point. You guys could probably do a lot better. Same goes for Wandale and Paris Campbell. I'd rather have Paris at this point. Excuse me. Now with a Sam Ellinger, it looks good. I'm an Ellinger fan. I think the guy's going to do well. He's going to be able to spread the ball around the field. His first NFL action, he looked good, okay? He wasn't great, but he looked good. He was spreading the ball around. He was able, he's looking over the sideline when Michael Pittman dropped that ball. He was upset. So you see what I'm saying? I think he's going to do at least better, if not, similar numbers to what Matt Ryan was doing in this offense, which means he's going to be able to support at least 2 wide receivers in this offense. Paris Campbell over Wandale right now. Wandale coming off a bad game, so I still don't mind Wandale on my bench if that's where you're going, but he is one to look at. Julio Jones, Terrace Marshall, and Jahan Dotson, all players that need to be watched at this point. Jahan Dotson, obviously, if he's over the hamstring injury, he's a must-add on your team. So out of the 3, I would say Jahan is my number 1 priority, then potentially a Julio Jones for touchdown upside. But again, he spends more time in the medical room than some doctors, so I don't know if you guys want to do that. As for running backs, it is thin as it gets. I mean, we're week 9 and there's nothing really out there to covet, but I got to cover some players if you're really stuck with injuries and bye weeks. Kenyon Drake, 25% ownership basically. He is back on the radar as a top commodity this week because of Gus Edwards' hamstring injury. So based on the hammy, based on the knee that Gus Edwards is dealing with, I would not be shocked if they limit his touch load and his workload this week before Baltimore enters the bye. So Kenyon Drake could be a very big volume play this week for the Baltimore Ravens. And I mean, at 25%, he should be on your wire. And potentially, a lot of people might think Gus Edwards is going to get a lot of carries. I caution it with Kenyon Drake, but I think he's going to be the guy you want this week. Cam Akers, 50%, just over by 0.8. But he's a guy, like I've been saying the last couple of weeks, you got to get him on the roster, especially on trade deadline day Tuesday. That is today. I mean, you got to understand, if he does get traded, this is potential for a top running back. I don't want to say top, but top as in volume for fantasy football. There is potential for him to find his home, his new home, and be at least a volume runner that we can trust to a point. And, volume is key for fantasy football. So, I mean, he's definitely a bench stash at this point. If he stays with LA, I don't foresee a lot happening again. He'll probably get some sprinkles of carries, but I doubt we're going to see a lot of Cam Akers if he stays with the LA Rams. Naheem Hines, Rashad White, I mean, okay. Not really, but I'm just putting them as notable names just in case you have to, insert a running back somewhere. I think you could do better, and that guy is Lat Murray. He scores another touchdown in London. 2 games in London, 2 touchdowns. He loves playing across the pond. Kyron Williams is the other name you got to watch. So if Cam gets traded from the LA Rams. Kyren Williams, I think, will have a pass-catching role. They are starving for a running back to make plays in LA. That offense is broken, I get it, but if they can establish some form of run game, recreate the run game with Kyren Williams in the past, he could be a viable PPR upside guy, no question about that. Madison from the Minnesota Vikings, again, this is handcuff season. Now you got to start, getting those handcuffs on your team. 37% ownership, he needs to be on your bench. If Dalvin Cook goes down, you got yourself a viable, full-blown volume running back that is capable of carrying the workload in Minnesota. Madison needs to be owned if for handcuff purposes if you have the room, no question about that. James Cook finds his way back on the list once again because it looks like the Bills are starting to give him a little bit more of the workload. We saw that beautiful catch he made. He started to carry the ball a little bit, going to the outside. We knew he had wheels for days. Buffalo just used the man, and we will be happy. He is one still. You can probably wait a week or two. His usage is probably still going to be, inconsistent at best, but maybe they got some sub packages they're going to use James Cook in, and I don't hate it whatsoever. Again, if you got room, James Cook should be on that, but it's more for deeper leagues rather than shallow bench plays. Hubbard's coming off the injury, and I don't know if I'm going to add him at this point. Keep him on the watch because Foreman has been killing it, no question. Hilliard from the Tennessee Titans, he's getting at least, what we expect Nyheim Hines to do in the PPR game, so he is also one that you could flirt with. And then you got Dearness Johnson from the Cleveland Browns. He finishes off my running backs, 2.1% ownership, and this is only contingent on the fact of the Cleveland Browns trading Kareem Hunt on trade deadline day, Tuesday. So, if they do that, Johnson's going to be a massive, massive addition. Likely going to have to pay up some fab dollars because Nick Chubb is still going to have somebody to spell his services, man. But I told y'all, running backs, it's getting thin, man. For streaming quarterback play, Justin Fields seems to be figuring it out, and I'm all for it. He had a baller of a day, man. Almost 30 points. It was a very good day. Yes, they got blown out. It's the Dallas Cowboys. It's the defense, but at least they were starting to see the rushing upside come to fruition from a Justin Fields. He's starting to figure it out, finding Darnell Mooney a little bit more, starting to spread the ball around to the tight end Cole Kmet. So at least we're starting to see the volume start to creep up in the pass game. This is a big positive. On top of Justin Fields now running the ball and scoring touchdowns with his legs, this is Cam Newton type of stuff, man. Justin Fields definitely has a good matchup this week. If you're looking for a streamer, Justin Fields is your guy, man. Marcus Mariota, what I tell y'all, 2 weeks in a row, I was preaching him up, and I said this past week against Carolina was the game you wanted to hold him, and he pops off, man. 20-some plus points. He was very, very good. 22, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But he was very good, and he's been very efficient so far this season for you. If you're a streaming quarterback player, super flex leagues, whatever you're at, Marcus Mariota is very reliable in the fantasy game, man. Anywhere from 15 to 25 points, he will put up. So again, another good matchup you can do Marcus Mariota this week. I'm all for it, man. Jared Goff, again, he's starting to fall off for me a little bit. He's a little too inconsistent. This Detroit Lions, man, they started out strong. They faded very fast, and they could have put up a lot more points on that Miami Dolphins defense, but they started to fade. So he's on the list because he's putting up points. He's got a lot of weapons, but I would take Fields and Mariota over him any day. PJ Walker, He's a faster Tyrod, man. I've always been a fan of Tyrod because, he played in Buffalo. We know his MO. He was great. He has a great cannon of an arm. He was a great deep ball thrower. That's what PJ Walker is. Did you see that toss PJ did? He's not getting near enough credit for that. Everybody get on social media and start liking that video because, good Lord, that was probably one of the best passes I have seen all year long on a dime, like 65 yards. PJ Walker, man, he's got rushing upside as well. What I say, they're in my start sit videos. If you guys aren't seeing them, go check those out as well. They're out every Saturday. But I told y'all, PJ's going to start feeding a DJ Moore, and that's exactly what they're doing in this offense. They're finally understanding. Use the players that are your superstars. Yes, Foreman is running very well, but now you got the passing upside with a PJ Walker who can get it down the field. I do like it. It's going to be hit and miss, but if he's got a good matchup, I do not hate, plug and play in a PJ Walker if you got guys on the bye like your quarterbacks and you need someone to replace. The Andy Dalton thing, it's up and down, hit and miss. It's up to you if you want to pick him. if you have nobody else and Dalton's there. He's serviceable enough to get you 15 points, but again, those interceptions will cost you from time to time. Same goes for Jimmy G. Interception's going to kill you, but with CMC, they look good, man, so he's going to have some serviceable days as well. Tyler Heineke and Sam Ehlinger, the both of them, again, the 15-point threshold is what we're looking for the boom games. Heineke's just doing it consistently. It's what he does. He's a gunslinger, and he's going to throw the ball, where Ehlinger, he did look good enough. 7.5 points is not good enough, obviously, to pick up. He's just on the watch list right now for quarterbacks because he will remain likely on the waiver wire. Let's see a couple more games under his belt before I can preach up his good graces. But again, I'm supportive of the kid. I like his game. I think he's going to be at least decent enough to get to 15 points. Tight ends is a revolving door if you're a streaming tight end person like I am. Evan Ingram, he's starting to pop off. If this man could literally figure out his catching problem, he's still dropping open passes, and it drives me nuts, man. He had a good game, but he could have had an even better game if he just catches and corrals those balls, man. Just do it, Evan. You're killing me. 37.8%. You got to own him if you are streaming tight ends. He is another good one. Trevor Lawrence has found trust in him. At least 5 to 7 targets per week for this man. So we know at least the target share and volume is going to be there for an Evan Ingram. I do like him right now in fantasy football for streamers, man. Ty Conklin does find his way back because Zach Wilson found him more than once. Excuse me. Everybody, started dropping his services once Joe Flacco went away because they weren't targeting the tight end. But this New York Jets offense is starting to fade because Zach Wilson does not look good, but maybe we start seeing more hot reads go down to Conklin. Maybe we start seeing more garbage time productivity going to Conklin. So you could get that 6 to 10 points from this tight end any given Sunday, and I don't hate it whatsoever. It is a reach a little bit, but, at this point, I would have had Dulcich above him. But Dulcich is on the bye, so we had to fill in somebody, and Ty Conklin playing the Buffalo Bills. We got to assume lots of garbage time should be coming from the New York Jets in that contest, so Conklin could be a very good plug-and-play. You're going to have to bite your nails and wait till the end of the game to get it figured out, but he could be a decent play. The rest of the tight ends, Smith, Otten, Komet, Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely will be fantastic if Mark Andrews does miss more time. That's the only reason he's on the notable list, because I do believe Andrews is going to suit up. But if we knew today that Andrews was not going to play, obviously Likely would be your number one waiver wire priority for the tight end position. But he is definitely one you got to watch out for. So maybe you pick him up and stash him if you are a Mark Andrews owner, because he will likely take a lot of the target share if Andrews does not play this week. So there you have it. That is week number 9 waiver wire pickups with a little twist of, hopefully you guys can get some traded players on your roster, man. It's sometimes difficult in redraft leagues to, snake a good couple players and hit for a long playoff run. But those guys right now, you got to at least try. A lot of managers are going to hold a lot of these players tight to their chest, but you got to try. If it helps your roster round it out to be that much better, I would definitely put out flyers and see where the interest is at. But nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your thoughts, and we'll see you next time. I am out.